Welcome to Spectrum Sphere, the place where curiosity leads to discovery. If you're excited to explore a myriad of fascinating topics with us, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Get ready to embark on a journey through the Russian Revolution and the rise of the Soviets. Let's dive in. Turning our gaze to pre-revolutionary Russia, we find the vast majority of the population were peasants and workers, burdened by feudal oppression and dire poverty. They toiled endlessly on the lands of nobles, living at the mercy of aristocrats and industrialists, without a voice or hope for a better future. Moving back through the annals of history, the Romanov dynasty emerges as a cornerstone of Russian imperial rule. Overseeing the nation for more than 3 centuries, the Tsars presided over an era marked by grandeur for the few and hardship for the many, setting the stage for revolution. As the 20th century dawned, Russia began to industrialize rapidly, bringing profound social change. Peasants flooded into urban centers, seeking work in burgeoning factories. This mass migration not only transformed the Russian economy, but also sowed the seeds of discontent as the gulf between the wealthy and the working class widened. World War I dealt a heavy blow to Tsarist Russia, both materially and morally. As casualties mounted and resources dwindled, public faith in the Tsar's leadership waned. The immense strain of the war exposed the weaknesses of a regime ill-equipped to manage the hardships and the growing cry for change. February 1917 marked a pivotal moment in Russian history. Amidst severe food shortages and widespread discontent, protests erupted in Petrograd. The imperial government's inability to quash the disturbances only fueled the uprising. Relentless pressure from the streets and a mutiny by the armed forces ultimately compelled Tsar Nicholas II to abdicate, ending centuries of Romanov rule. After the Tsar's abdication, the provisional government stepped in, hoping to stabilize Russia. Despite their efforts, their tenure was marred by indecisiveness and internal divisions. They grappled with the same issues that plagued Nicholas's reign: war fatigue, economic collapse, and rising demands for land reform and workers' rights. This precariousness would soon pave the way for radical change. In the midst of this chaos, Vladimir Lenin and his Bolshevik party began gaining momentum with their promise of peace, land, and bread. Capitalizing on the government's inability to address the basic needs of the populace, the Bolsheviks, through shrewd propaganda and increasing Soviet influence, positioned themselves as the people's champion against the existing power structure. Following his arrival at Petrograd's Finland station, Lenin presented his April theses, outlining a radical shift towards socialist revolution. These theses proposed an immediate withdrawal from the war, transfer of land to the peasantry, and the transfer of power from the provisional government to the Soviets, setting the stage for the profound transformation of Russia. As the provisional government struggled, unrest grew. In July, Petrograd erupted with spontaneous armed demonstrations, known as the July Days. Workers and soldiers, already disillusioned with the government's failures, demanded further reforms. The Bolsheviks, sensing the rising tide of discontent, found an ever-expanding base of support. In a dramatic twist during the volatile year of 1917, General Kornilov attempted a military coup to restore order in Russia. The provisional government, under Alexander Kerensky, was accused of collaborating with Kornilov, tarnishing its reputation. The failed coup led to a significant power shift, bolstering the Bolsheviks' influence among the Soviets. As the Bolsheviks seized power, Russia plunged into civil war, cleaving the country into red and white factions. The Reds, led by the Bolsheviks, advocated for immediate socio-economic transformations, while the Whites comprised a diverse anti-Bolshevik group seeking to restore the old order or establish a new one, igniting a brutal conflict. In the tension-filled air of Petrograd, October 1917 marked a pivotal moment in history, the October Revolution. The Bolsheviks, led by Vladimir Lenin, orchestrated a coup against the provisional government, storming the Winter Palace with virtually no resistance, thus setting the stage for a new Soviet era. Emerging from the chaos of revolution, the Bolsheviks faced immediate challenges, not least the ongoing war with Germany. In a drastic move, they signed the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk, ceding vast territories in exchange for peace. This decision was controversial, attracting fierce criticism from many Russians who viewed it as a betrayal. Despite the Bolsheviks' consolidation of power, a democratically elected Constituent Assembly convened in January 1918. However, it was short-lived. The Bolsheviks, led by Lenin, dissolved the assembly when it challenged their authority. The rejection of this democratic institution marked a pivotal moment, reinforcing the Bolsheviks' grip on the new Soviet state. In response to economic turmoil and a need to support the Red Army during the Civil War, the Bolsheviks implemented war communism. This policy centralized production and distribution under state control, requisitioned grain from peasants, and banned private trade, which led to widespread shortages and further civil strife. Following the consolidation of power, the Bolsheviks launched the Red Terror, aimed at eliminating opposition. The Cheka, a secret police force, became instrumental in this campaign. Thousands of real and alleged enemies faced summary executions and imprisonment as the new regime aggressively stifled any form of dissent to ensure its survival. In 1921, the Kronstadt rebellion erupted as disillusioned sailors, previously staunch Bolshevik supporters, demanded economic and political reforms. This mutiny symbolized the growing discontent with the regime's harsh policies. The Bolsheviks rapidly crushed the rebellion, viewing it as a direct threat to the Soviet power structure, further consolidating their control. In response to the economic devastation and widespread unrest, Lenin introduced the new economic policy in 1921. The NEP was a significant shift, relaxing the harsh war communism policies by allowing some private enterprise and market dynamics. This tactical retreat aimed to revive the battered economy and placate the population. Amidst the turmoil, a catastrophic famine struck Soviet Russia between 1921 and 1922, precipitated by drought, economic disarray, and the strains of war. It claimed millions of lives and brought international relief efforts. The crisis underscored the dire situation facing the nascent Soviet state and its population. Emerging from the ravages of civil war and the shadow of famine, the Soviet leadership sought to unify the country under a new political structure. In 1922, this ambition culminated in the formation of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, a federative entity that aimed to encapsulate the ideals of the revolution. With Lenin's passing in 1924, a power vacuum threatened the nascent Soviet state. It was within this turbulence that Joseph Stalin maneuvered himself efficiently, eclipsing his rivals in the Communist Party. Stalin's consolidation of power would mark the beginning of a new, more authoritarian chapter in Soviet history. Stalin launched his ambitious five-year plans, aiming to modernize Soviet industry and agriculture at breakneck speed. The first plan focused on heavy industries, while collective farming was forced upon the peasantry. These actions were drastic, often brutal, but would irrevocably transform the economic landscape of the Soviet Union. Following the economic upheaval, Stalin turned his focus inward, initiating the Great Purge. In a chilling campaign against perceived enemies, the regime arrested millions. The purge dismantled the original Bolshevik ranks, silenced political rivals, and instilled a culture of fear. Stalin's grip was absolute, but at a cost of countless lives. As Stalin's totalitarian regime solidified, World War II began. The Soviet Union played a pivotal role, enduring immense sacrifices. The Eastern Front, marked by brutal battles like Stalingrad, saw the Soviets losing millions to the Nazi onslaught. Their eventual victory came at a great human and material cost, reshaping the world order. Emerging from World War II as one of the two leading superpowers, the USSR faced off against the United States in the Cold War. This global rivalry was marked by espionage, arms races, proxy wars, and a fight for ideological dominance, dramatically shaping international relations for decades. In the aftermath of Stalin's death, Nikita Khrushchev emerged as the leader and commenced a policy known as de-Stalinization. Denouncing the excesses of Stalin's rule, Khrushchev aimed to soften repression and loosen censorship. However, these reforms faced significant resistance, and the limits of his policies soon became apparent. As the Khrushchev era gave way to the leadership of Leonid Brezhnev, the Soviet Union entered a period of stagnation. Brezhnev's tenure was marked by a reinforcement of the status quo, political repression, and economic slowdown. Despite this, stability and continuity were prioritized over Khrushchev's reformative fluctuations. In stark contrast to the stagnation of the Brezhnev era, Mikhail Gorbachev introduced groundbreaking reforms known as perestroika and glasnost in the mid-1980s. Perestroika aimed to restructure the economy towards a market-oriented model, while glasnost, meaning openness, sought to ensure transparency and freedom of information within Soviet society. Now, as the Soviet Union faced growing economic challenges, Mikhail Gorbachev's reforms inadvertently set the stage for its demise. Nationalist movements gained momentum, leading to the dissolution of the USSR. In 1991, Boris Yeltsin emerged as the leader of the new Russian Federation, marking the end of Soviet rule. As we reflect on the seismic shifts from the Russian Revolution, its ripple effects are still felt in today's geopolitics. The rise of the Soviets reshaped the global order, influenced conflicts, and ideological battles that persist. Its legacy serves as a profound chapter in our understanding of revolution and statecraft. Thank you for exploring the riveting history of the Russian Revolution with us at Spectrum Sphere. If you've enjoyed this journey, please show your support by hitting the like button, subscribing to our channel, and turning on notifications for a diverse world of discovery. Until next time, keep learning and stay curious.